Welcome to Daily English Room. Today's topic is books. Do you enjoy reading books?
Yes, I love reading. It's actually how I started learning English seriously, through manga translations and then moving on to novels and design books.
What kind of books do you usually read?
I read a lot of design books and art magazines for work. For pleasure, I enjoy contemporary fiction and graphic novels. I find the visual storytelling really inspiring for my work.
Do you prefer physical books or ebooks?
I like both formats for different reasons. Physical books are better for design references because I can appreciate the print quality, but ebooks are great for reading on my commute.
How often do you find time to read?
My reading routine is quite structured. I read during my hour-long train commute every day, which gives me about 10 hours of reading time per week. I also dedicate Sunday mornings to reading design magazines and art books at my favorite cafe in Shibuya. It's become such a pleasant ritual that I look forward to all week. Sometimes I even sketch while reading, especially when I find inspiring design elements.
Do you like to discuss books with others?
I'm actually part of 2 book clubs, one in Japanese with my college friends where we read design theory books, and another in English with other expat creatives in Tokyo. The English book club has really pushed me out of my comfort zone. We often read books about art movements and contemporary design, and discussing these topics in English has helped me articulate my creative ideas better. Plus, it's fascinating to hear how different cultures interpret design principles differently.
What was your favorite book when you were a child?
I absolutely loved Guri to Gura, a Japanese children's series about 2 cooking mice. The illustrations were so charming that they actually inspired me to start drawing. I still reference those books sometimes in my design work. There's something about their simple yet expressive style that really resonates with me. I recently bought the English translation to understand how certain Japanese concepts were adapted.
Have you ever given a book as a gift? What was it?
Last month, I gave my design team members a beautiful art book about Japanese minimalism. It was both in Japanese and English, which was perfect because our team is quite international. I also recently gave my friend who's interested in Japanese culture a manga series with parallel text in Japanese and English. It's a great way to learn language through visuals.
Do you like reading books in different languages?
Yes, I read in both Japanese and English regularly. Initially, it was challenging to read design books in English, but it's essential in my field since many cutting-edge design concepts are published in English first. I love comparing manga in Japanese and English too. It's fascinating to see how visual storytelling translates across languages, especially how onomatopoeia differs.
Has your taste in books changed over the years?
My reading tastes have definitely evolved. In university, I mostly read manga and fashion magazines. Now, I find myself drawn to books about design theory, user experience, and digital art. Recently, I've started reading more about traditional Japanese aesthetics and how they influence modern design. I'm also getting into Western graphic design history. It gives me a different perspective on my work.
How do you choose which books to read next?
I have several ways of finding new books. For design books, I follow several design blogs and YouTube channels, both Japanese and international ones. I also subscribe to a few design magazines that review new books. For fiction, I'm part of a Goodreads group for Japanese people learning English. We share recommendations for books that are engaging but not too difficult to read in English.
Do you take notes while reading?
Being a visual person, my note-taking is quite unique. I keep a sketchbook where I draw elements that inspire me from design books. For English books, I create visual vocabulary maps, like mind maps with small illustrations. When reading digital books, I use different highlight colors: yellow for new English phrases, green for design ideas, and blue for concepts I want to research further.
What's your favorite place or time to read?
My favorite reading spot is this quiet cafe near my design studio in Daikanyama. It has these huge windows and perfect lighting. I go there every Sunday morning and spend about 3 hours reading and sketching. On weekdays, I read during my train commute. It's actually quite peaceful in Japanese trains since everyone is quiet.
Have you ever started a book but couldn't finish it?
Yes, I tried reading Design Thinking in English when I first started learning the language. The business and design terminology was overwhelming at that time. But rather than giving up completely, I found a Japanese version, read it first, then went back to the English version. Now this has become my strategy for tackling difficult design theory books.
Do you have any reading goals for this year?
I've set myself several reading goals this year. I want to read 12 major design publications in English, explore at least 15 art books from different cultures, and finish one English novel every month. I'm also challenging myself to read more about traditional Japanese design principles. I think it's important to understand our design heritage while working in modern design.
What was the last book you recommended to someone?
Just last week, I recommended Ways of Seeing by John Berger to my junior designers. Even though it's an older book, its insights about visual culture are still relevant today. I also created a small visual guide translating some key concepts into Japanese to help them understand the more complex parts.
How has reading helped you in your career or studies?
Reading has been fundamental to keeping up with design trends and developing my own style. Design books in English have given me access to global perspectives that aren't always available in Japanese. Last year, I redesigned our company's branding based on principles I learned from various typography books. Reading about user experience design has also helped me create more accessible designs for international clients.
Do you remember the first book you read in English?
The first English book I read completely was The Elements of Typographic Style. I chose it because it had lots of visual examples, which helped me understand the text. It took me almost 6 months, and I made a visual dictionary of design terms, but it was worth it. That book actually helped me win my first international client because I could discuss design concepts in English.
How do you make time for reading despite your busy schedule?
I've turned my commute into reading time. It's about 45 minutes each way on the train. I also have what I call my Sunday design ritual, where I spend 3 hours at my favorite cafe reading design magazines and books. During lunch breaks, I read design blogs on my tablet, and I always carry an ebook for whenever I'm waiting for clients.
Have you ever read a book that changed your perspective on life?
I really enjoy the Layout Workbook series by Kristen Cullen. Each book focuses on different aspects of design principles, from typography to color theory. The series is especially meaningful to me because it helped me bridge the gap between Japanese and Western design approaches. I often refer back to them when working on international projects.
Do you have a favorite book series?
I really enjoy the Layout Workbook series by Kristen Cullen. Each book focuses on different aspects of design principles, from typography to color theory. The series is especially meaningful to me because it helped me bridge the gap between Japanese and Western design approaches. I often refer back to them when working on international projects.
What do you think about book adaptations, movies, TV shows?
As a graphic designer, I'm fascinated by how books are adapted into visual media. I pay special attention to how they translate descriptive passages into visual elements. Recently, I watched the adaptation of Norwegian Wood. It was interesting to see how they captured Murakami's symbolic imagery. Though I usually prefer books, I appreciate how adaptations can bring new perspectives to familiar stories.
What book would you like to read next?
I'm planning to read Japanese Design, Art, Aesthetics and Culture next. Even though I'm Japanese, I'm interested in reading about our design principles from an international perspective. It might help me better explain Japanese aesthetic concepts to my Western clients.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to start reading more?
As a designer, I suggest treating books like visual art. Find ones that appeal to you visually at first. Maybe start with illustrated books or magazines in your field. I also recommend creating a comfortable reading space with good lighting. Environment really affects the reading experience.
If you could write a book, what would it be about?
I'd love to create a visual book about the intersection of traditional Japanese design principles and modern digital design. It would include case studies from my work, showing how concepts like negative space can be applied to website design. I'd make it highly visual with lots of examples and illustrations.
That's all for today's daily English room conversation practice. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, like, leave a comment, and hit the subscribe button. See you next time.